Loading data. Although this may seem like a fairly trivial task, if you've worked with Excel for long enough, you've probably encountered some of the following issues. 1. Drop leading 0 from ID fields, which causes lookup formulas to break. 2. Numbers stored as text. When 1 plus 2 equals 1, it's likely that Excel has stored the number 2 as text instead of a number, causing the math operation to skip over it. 3. Incorrect date conversion. Importing US dates into a non-US setup of Excel can end up inverting the day and month for days less than 12, and store the remaining dates as text, as it cannot read them. One of the challenges is that Excel does all of these automatic conversions as soon as the file is open, before you've even clicked on a single cell. Correcting these issues may be an additional set of steps you need to add to your process every time you reload your data. In addition to this, the most common way of updating spreadsheets is copying and pasting an updated dataset over your data source tabs. The challenge with this is that the new data may have more or less rows or columns which can break your model. Less rows will risk leaving in old data. More rows means your formulas have to be filled down and designed to reference the new rows. Columns which have moved or dropped columns can break all of your formulas reference to those columns, and new columns can override formulas that you've added to your data. All of these issues are addressed when using R. Loading data in R can be achieved with the readr library, which comes packaged with Tidyverse. readr is able to load many different types of data into R incredibly quickly. You'll be surprised at how much faster larger data sets load when compared to Excel. Loading data into R is ultimately done through a script. The benefit of this is that all the extra details about loading the data is saved, and anytime you want to reload that data, say for something like a monthly process, all you need to do is run your script to load your data, along with the rest of your script that generates all of your results. When starting out, RStudio very helpfully writes all of this script for you through its handy import data set function. R is capable of importing many more types of data, but for now, let's just look at the two very common options, CSV and Excel. When exporting data from other systems, it's highly likely that it will export to a CSV and/or Excel format. Given the choice, I will always opt for a CSV format over Excel. CSV stands for comma separated value and is a raw data format. Let's take a look at a sample data file by browsing to it through RStudio. RStudio has a section where we can see all of our files. Inside this data folder, I have a file called sampleimport.csv. If I click on this, I can view the file, and as we can see here, it's basically just a text file with commas to separate the different columns. The other option I have here is to import the dataset. So this is the same as the import dataset option above here, except it will automatically choose the file type for us since it already knows that this is a CSV. I'm going to click on this option. It automatically provides the file path for us along with a preview of our data. We can see here that we have a column employee ID, which has been imported as a character type, which is correct. A hire date column, which has been also imported as character. Now we can see here that the date format for this is US date format, which is coming in as month, day, year. Since the dates on our system are international based dates, this is not picking up correctly and it's being selected as character. What I can do though is I can simply click on this drop down and say I want this to be a date. And RStudio has actually automatically picked up the correct date format for us, which in this case is month, day, year. Later on, I'll show you how to look up the help files in order to specify more complex date formats. For now, let's click OK. And our head count column has been correctly imported as a double. Now, basically what a double is a numeric field with decimal places. The fact that R has data types for its columns basically guarantees that all of the values in this column are going to be numbers. Unlike Excel, where some of the values could be entered as text and then not feed the calculation, all of the values in this column here in R are guaranteed to be a number. Now, RStudio has generated all of this code for us, which we can copy and paste back into our script to reuse for future use. So for now, I'm going to click this copy button, which we will paste in a sec. But for now, let's click the import button. So clicking on import has run all of this script. It's given us a preview of our data up the top here. And it has also created an object over here, which is our table. Right? So again, I can click here to see all my columns. I can see that I've had 3 observations or 3 rows being imported and 3 columns. And again, clicking on this little button here basically brings up this view. Let's close this for now. I have an empty script file here. And since I copied the script, which was generated by RStudio earlier, I can simply paste it into here. That's quite handy that RStudio has generated all of this code for us. However, we really don't want to be running that process like every single time we do this. So we really want to be able to get comfortable and used to reading and writing these scripts. And what you'll find is after a while, once you become familiar with these functions, is that you'll probably find it faster just to type them anyway. If we take a look at the script, basically what it's saying here is that we're setting up an object called sample import, and we're assigning it the value of this import, which is being carried out by the read CSV function. This first parameter here is the import file. Now, even if I was typing this in manually, a shortcut that I can use to type this for me is, if this were empty quotes here, I can basically hit the tab button to browse all of my files. So I know that my data is sitting within the data directory, so I can hit tab to enter that for me. And there's my CSV file, so I can hit tab again. So again, very quick to be able to type this in directly as well. Here we can see that I've got column types, and in this instance I've got basically a custom type for hire date using this date format. Now, if this was not the right date format, I could specify another one. And to figure out exactly what sort of combination of letters and everything I need to type into here, I could say go to column date and hit F1. And we can see in the help file here that there's a whole bunch of details for being able to specify all the different components of your date, so you can specify exactly your date format. Now in Excel, you're probably used to basically loading a single data set, one-off. In practice, a lot of the data that you're going to be loading is probably queried from the same systems. And so even if it does contain different rows and columns for your different data sets, chances are it's going to be containing a lot of the same columns each time. And so it can be very useful to save the column spec for those columns so you can reuse them for every import that you do. Again, this is the value of writing something as a script, which can be reused multiple times, not just for one data set, but for lots of different data sets, which are fairly similar. Now, while I'm here, I just wanted to point out a few more things. So RStudio has automatically loaded the readr library for us. And readr basically gives us the function read_CSV. Now, there is another function in R called read.csv. Read.csv is the function that comes with base R. And although it does the same thing read_CSV from the readr library is significantly faster, and it gets everything into a format which is very nicely compatible with the Tidyverse. So whenever you're doing this, make sure that you do use the read_CSV version from the readr library. The other thing I wanted to point out is that readr is actually already packaged within the Tidyverse library. So throughout this course, one of the first lines that we're always going to be adding to all of our scripts is library Tidyverse. By adding this line here, we're actually automatically including the library readr, so we don't need to do it separately. Now I just want to take a minute to go over what some of the issues are with loading data up in Excel and some very common errors that I see all the time. So I'm going to come over here to Explorer, where I have a copy of my file, sample import.csv. And when I open this in Excel, before I've done anything, you can see here that I've dropped all the leading zeros off the file, and the dates have not been brought in correctly. Even if I touch nothing on this file, and I hit Save As, and it doesn't matter if I save this as a CSV or an Excel file. If I save this, it will have saved these corruptions into the file as well. So if I come back over to RStudio and go back to my files, I can see here that I also have an XLSX version of my file. Again, I can click Import Dataset, and we can see here from the preview, Excel has cut off all the leading zeros, which is bringing this in as a double now. Because you can't really combine tables with columns of different data types, I'm going to change this to be a character. The lack of leading zeros is something that we'll have to fix later. We can see here that the higher date has really been corrupted by Excel. And although it is possible to fix it, it's usually much easier to go back to your source data again and make sure that the data is imported correctly in the first place. The other thing to consider is, when you're importing a CSV, you're basically just importing a table. Excel obviously has tables in it, but it has tables embedded within sheets. So there are several other parameters which are required as well. For example, which sheet does your data come from? Is your data starting on the first row in the first column? Do you have merged cells or any other types of formatting which won't come into your import? For all of these reasons, it's much easier and highly recommended to export your data directly to a CSV format in the first place, and do not touch it or even open it and click Save As in Excel. This has been a lecture from my course, R Reporting and Analytics for Excel Users.